Now we need to talk about one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your mobile catering journey. And that's trailer, van, Luton or classic vehicle, or something completely different. Most people approach this decision emotionally. They choose based on looks. They choose based on what they saw on social media. They choose based on what looks cool at a festival. They choose based on ego. But honestly, this decision has very little to do with appearance. It has everything to do with workflow, lifestyle, energy levels, staffing, legal weight limits, storage, trading styles, and how you want your working life to feel 5 years from now. Because I've seen people regret this decision more than any other. And the reason is simple. They brought the dream, but they did not understand the working day. They'd not worked in the environment. A beautiful van conversion can look incredible online. A classic vehicle can stop people in their tracks. A big trailer can look impressive. And a compact kitchen can look small but perform brilliantly in the right location. But none of that matters if the systems don't work when you're tired, wet, busy, short-staffed and trying to produce food under pressure. You're not buying a fashion accessory. You're buying a working environment, somewhere you're going to live. And if working in that environment fights you every day, the romance very quickly disappears. And that's why this episode matters, because the correct setup can make your business easy, more profitable, and more enjoyable. The wrong setup can make every event feel like punishment. So let's break the options down properly. No frills trailers. The first category is the no frills trailer. This is usually the simplest professional entry point to mobile pizza, professional entry point into mobile wood-fired pizza catering. And it's the most basic. It's an oven on a trailer. And then around that trailer, you build the rest of the working system. You build the gazebos, the tables, the fridges, the dough boxes, the dough roller if you're using one. I love them, by the way. Topping stations, serving area, the lighting and the hand wash. You also need power, and everything is separate. And when you first start, that can be brilliant. It's comparatively affordable, and it's flexible, and it's easy to modify. It's easy to store in different places. It doesn't take up that much space. And if one part of the system changes, you can often change the whole without rebuilding the whole unit. And this type of setup also teaches you a huge amount. You learn where things need to be. You learn what slows you down. You learn what you forgot to pack. You learn how weather affects trading. You learn how much kit you actually need. And you learn very quickly whether you enjoy this business or not. For many people, the no-frills trailer is a sensible starting point. It allows them to enter the market without jumping straight into a very expensive van conversion. It also gives them the room to grow. But there is a price, and that price is effort. Every event means loading, unloading, putting up gazebos, setting out tables, and connecting the power. You then need to set the fridges, set the topping stations, and make the whole area feel safe. And then at the end of the night, when everybody else has gone home, you do it all in reverse. Often in the dark, often in the rain, and sometimes in the mud. And often after long service when you're already exhausted. And that's what people forget. They imagine the trading. They imagine the fire. They imagine the queue. They don't imagine packing wet gazebos into a vehicle at midnight after a poor event. At 25, that may be fine. At 35, it starts to become less amusing. And at my age, 45 or older, it can become a complete bind. So the no-frills trailers are not bad. They can be brilliant. It's how I started. But you must understand that the work attached to them. They suit operators who are prepared to grind. They suit startups who need to control investment, and they suit people still testing their market. They suit people who want to be flexible, but they don't suit people who want to arrive, open one hatch and start trading in minutes. That's a completely different system. So let's move on to the standout trailers. This is the next category, a standout trailer. These systems, like our compact kitchen and their Ape style conversions, well, they're not full stand-in kitchens where you work inside all day. They are compact units that open out into a working kitchen, sometimes giving you a lot more space than a stand-in trailer. The important difference is that the equipment is stored inside the box, and that changes everything, because now instead of arriving with a trailer, separate gazebos, separate tables, loose equipment everywhere, the system is more contained. You arrive, you position the unit, and you open it up. You then deploy the kitchen, and you start trading much faster. And that speed matters. At weddings, people love seeing the whole thing set up. Not just because it saves time, but because it saves energy. And energy is one of the hidden costs in this business. The more energy you waste before service, the less energy you have during service. The more energy you waste after service, the more likely you are to make mistakes when tired. So compact standout systems can be incredibly practical, and they are visually interesting. They are usually easier to transport than larger units. They can work beautifully for markets, private events, street food, shows, and smaller catering operations like weddings. But the warning is this: small spaces must be designed properly. Compact does not mean cramped. Compact means efficient, and that's what I love about the compact kitchen. Every shelf matters, every drawer matters, every fridge position matters, and every open hatch matters. Every movement within the system matters, because if the design is wrong, a compact kitchen becomes frustrating very quickly. You start reaching across yourself. You start moving around obstacles. You start putting things down in the wrong place. You start losing rhythm. And once rhythm goes, output drops. So the compact kitchen is often a sweet spot, but only when built as a system, not just as a box with an oven in it. And then we have the stand-in trailers. Now let's talk about the stand-in trailers. Horse boxes or stock trailers or purpose-built catering boxes. Large enclosed units. These are a completely different experience. The biggest benefit is obvious. You can work inside, and in the UK that is a huge advantage because weather changes everything. Being dry during service changes morale. It changes staff comfort. It changes organization. It changes how you feel about the business. A stand-in trailer gives you a more controlled working environment. It can give you a proper prep space, better storage, better refrigeration, better lighting, better staff positions, and better protection from wind and rain. For serious operators doing regular events, this can make a huge difference. But again, there are trade-offs. Stand-in trailers are usually bigger, heavier, more expensive, and harder to tow. They're also harder to store and often require more thought around access, parking, and pitch sizes. They can also tempt people into building too much. Too much equipment, stuff you don't need. Too much menu, large menus you don't need. Too much storage, just junk everywhere. Too many options. And suddenly the business becomes heavier, more complex, and more expensive to run. Bigger does not necessarily or automatically mean better. Bigger trailers only increase capacity if the whole system supports that capacity. You need enough staff, enough prep, enough refrigeration, enough order management, enough serving capacity, enough payment speed. An oven and a big box do not create output by themselves. The system creates output. So stand-in trailers can be fantastic, but they must be matched to a serious business model. Not bought because they feel impressive. Now, van conversions. Van conversions like Citroën H vans, Peugeots, Renault, and modern panel vans. And quite frankly, I really love these. You also get the custom builds in these. These are incredibly popular because they solve a lot of problems. A properly designed van conversion can be quick to set up, dry to operate, and easy to brand. Compact enough for many sites, professional in appearance, and they are much less physical than loose trailer and gazebo setups. For street trading, corporate events, town centres, office parks, private parties and regular pitches, vans can be brilliant. But vans expose poor design instantly because you're working in a confined space. There is nowhere to hide in a bad layout. If the oven is in the wrong place, you feel it in every single service. If the fridge is in the wrong place, you feel it in every service. If the topping station is wrong, you feel it in every service. If the hatch is wrong size, you feel it in every service. If the storage is wrong, you feel it. And because vans have a limited space, every mistake has a multiplier effect. You cannot just spread out more tables. You cannot just create more floor space. You have what you have. So van conversions must be designed around the sequence of operation. Where does the dough start? Where does it get stretched? Where does it get topped? And how many do you top? And where do you put it into the oven? Where does it get cut after it comes out of the oven? And how do you serve it to the customer? Where does the waste go? And where do the boxes go? Where does the dirty kit go? Where does the clean kit go? All this needs thinking out. And that is what makes a van conversion work. Not just making it look nice. All right. You also have Luton vans in the class. Now, Luton vans are interesting. They offer a lot of internal volume. They give large branding areas. They can have a large service opening, and they carry more refrigeration. They can support multi-staff workflows. And for the right business, they can be very efficient, especially for higher volume operations where storage and internal space matter. But Luton vans also bring serious considerations: weight, fuel, parking, access, maintenance, height, and driving comfort. You need to ask yourself whether you genuinely need that amount of system. Because if the business does not generate enough turnover to justify the additional cost and complexity, the Luton becomes an anchor. It looks serious, it feels professional, but it must earn its keep. And that's the rule. Every piece of equipment must earn its keep in the system. Every extra kilogram must earn its keep. Every extra foot of vehicle must earn its keep. And if it does not, you are carrying ego instead of profit. The next one is classic vehicles. Citroën H vans. And we need to talk about these classic vehicles. Vintage vans, classic vehicles, fire engines, retro conversions. Visually, they can be incredible. They can create theatre before the oven is even lit. They can draw attention, and they can photograph beautifully. They can become part of the brand. For static sites, classic can work well. If the vehicle is parked permanently or only moved occasionally, the reliability risk becomes more manageable. If it is part of a venue, farm shop, garden centre, hotel, brewery, or a permanent street food courtyard, then a classic vehicle can be a fantastic visual aspect. But for regular mobile trading, classic can become a nightmare. You've got the breakdowns, the electrical problems, the parts availability, the maintenance costs. Customers don't care. Your classic vehicle would not start. The wedding client doesn't care that the parts are hard to source. The festival organizer doesn't care that old electrics failed. They only know you did not arrive and you did not trade properly. And that's dangerous. So classics are not bad, but they need honesty. Great static attraction, great marketing asset, great if maintained properly, but often poor as daily mobile workhorse. Romance is not reliability, and reliability matters more than you could possibly imagine. And then there's the 3.5 ton trap. Now we have to talk about weight, because the 3.5 ton rule catches people out constantly. And I see people buying stuff online all the time, and it's wrong. People look at the vehicle and think there's loads of space, but space is not payload. And that's the line you must remember. Space is not payload. You can have a big empty looking van and it's still close to the limit once it's fitted out. You've got the oven, the steelwork, the refractory materials. You've got the fridges, the water tanks, the gas bottles, the generator, the dough, the drinks, the ingredients. You've got the staff that need to travel in the van. You've got the tools and you've got the signage. It all adds up. And once you go over the 3.5 ton, everything changes. Driving license requirements can change. Insurance questions can change. Maintenance responsibilities can change. Costs can change. And if you are overloaded, you are creating safety, legal, and insurance problems. And that's why proper design matters. Not just because it looks better, because it protects the business. The real lesson through all of this is quite simple. The best system is not necessarily the prettiest system. The best system is not always the biggest system. The best system is not always the biggest system. The best system is not the one that gets the most likes online. The best system is the one that helps you trade profitably, repeatedly, without destroying your body and your sanity. No-frills trailers are great for low-cost entry and flexibility. Standout trailers are great for compact efficiency and deployment. Stand-in trailers are great for weather protection and comfort. Van conversions are great for speed, branding, and regular trading. Luton vans are great for high-volume systems when business can justify them. And classics are great for static theatre, but risky as a daily workhorse. Every option has its place, but every option has a consequence. So choose based on how you want to work. Choose based on the model that you want to build. Choose based on the hours that you want to work. Choose based on the crew that will realistically have. And choose based on output, storage, weight, and long-term comfort, not just what looks good in a photograph. Once you understand the different options, the next question is actually quite simple. How do you choose? And the answer is not to start with a vehicle. Start with a business model. Are you going to do weddings? Are you going to do festivals? Are you going to do regular street trading? Are you going to do corporate launches? Are you going to do private parties in a field or in gardens? Are you going to build a semi-static pitch at a venue? Because each model puts different pressures on the setup. A wedding business needs presentation, reliability, elegance, and a calm service. A festival business needs speed, stock control, staff positions, queue handling, and high output. A street trading business needs fast setup, tight footprint, and repeatability. A corporate business needs professionalism, clean branding, and speed within a fixed lunch window. And a static venue may care less about the road reliability and more about the theatre, the storage, and the customer experience. So the first question is not what looks best. The first question is, how will this business actually earn money? And then you design backwards from that. If your main work is private parties with small numbers, you may not need a huge Luton van. If your main work is high volume festivals, a cute compact kitchen may not give you the stock and the prep capacity you need. It certainly won't give you the volume. If you're trading weekly in the same town, fast deployment may matter more than maximum size. If you're working weddings, presentation and calm workflow may matter more than raw volume. And that's why there is no single perfect setup. There is only the right setup for the right operator. Staffing changes the answer. Another thing people forget is staffing. A setup that works brilliantly for one person and a helper may not work for a team of 4. And a setup designed for 4 people may be a nightmare if you regularly trade alone. That is why you must be honest. How many people will actually be working? Not in your fantasy vision, but in real life. Will you have one reliable helper? Will you use a casual staff? Or will your partners help? Will family help occasionally? Are you building a proper trained team? Because staff movement dictates layout. One person needs everything close by. 2 people need clear zones. 3 people need identified positions. 4 people need enough space not to fight each other. If you ignore that, your layout becomes stressful. People bump into each other, orders slow down, food quality drops, and temperatures rise. And then suddenly the beautiful unit becomes a miserable workplace. And storage is where people get caught. Storage is another area people underestimate. Where do the pizza boxes go? Where does the square or the spare flour go? Where do the dough trays go before service? Where do the empty dough trays go during service? Where do the cleaning chemicals go? Where do the gas bottles go? Where does the rubbish go? Where do the staff coats go? In England, it gets wet and you need to hang those coats somewhere. Where does the cash drawer or the card machine live, and where do you keep the change? Where do the spare peels go, the ones that you're not using in service? These sound like small details, but they're not. Small details become big problems during service. A good conversion is not just where the oven goes, it's where everything goes. And that's just the difference between a pretty conversion and a professional system. And then you've got the weather test. Here is another test. Imagine your chosen setup at 10 o'clock at night. It's raining. The ground is muddy. You're tired. And the event was average, not great. You still have to pack down. Now ask yourself honestly, do you still love that setup? Because that's the real test. Not how it looks on collection day, not how it photographs in the sunshine, how it feels when you're tired and the weather is against you. That's when a good system shows its value. That's where a bad system punishes you. That's where not thinking about your business model takes up all your effort. And that's why Bushmen think in systems. That's why here at Bushman, we don't just think about the ovens. Bushman ovens are individually handmade in England using the highest grade refractory materials available. They are built to be the heart of a professional live fire system. But the oven is only one part of the system. A brilliant oven in a bad layout is still a hard way to work. A properly designed oven in a properly designed workflow with a proper trained team and support is completely different. And that's why the experience matters. Because anyone can say, here's a trailer. Anyone can say, here's my van. Anyone can say, that's an oven. But the real question is, does the system help you make money without destroying yourself in the process? That's the standard. Not just whether it looks nice, not just whether it fits. Does it work as a business? Does it support the operator? Does it protect output? Does it protect quality? Does it protect long-term enjoyment? That's what matters. In summary then, trailer or van is not an emotional decision. It's an operational decision. Workflow matters more than appearance. Weight planning matters massively. Dry working conditions can change your quality of life. Compact systems can be powerful if designed intelligently. Large systems only make sense when the business model supports them and you have the customers to feed them. And a good system always outperforms pretty chaos. We put out new videos regularly covering the real nuts and bolts of this business. Not the glamorous stuff, the stuff that actually makes you money. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe and you won't miss a thing.